And now, your daily dose of debate, breaking news, and uncensored views. This is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth. And what a great day it is for the United States in the midst of a whole series of negotiating bits of news. From CBS News, Vice President J.D. Vance said today that Iran would allow nuclear inspectors to return to the country after what he called a very, very good, two verys, first day of U.S.-Iran negotiations in Switzerland. Iran's foreign ministry, however, said earlier that real negotiations on the nuclear issue haven't yet started. They have, according to the Memorandum of Understanding, some 60 days to make this work. Now, President Trump had said some harsh things about the people with whom we are negotiating, and people worried that that would blow up the negotiations because President Trump was again threatening to blow up Iran. But apparently things are moving along positively. Mediators said the two sides agreed to establish a line of communication to avoid incidents and miscommunication in the Strait of Hormuz to help ensure safe transit for commercial vessels through the vital waterway, and that would start right away. Iran, the U.S., and Lebanon have also agreed to create a deconfliction cell to ensure the U.S.-Iran agreement's call for a ceasefire on all fronts, including in Lebanon, is respected. Iran's foreign minister says it will be the first real test of the negotiations. Now, it's interesting because the government of Lebanon has never been the problem. The problem is Hezbollah, and Hezbollah is not really responsible to the government of Lebanon or to the Lebanese people. It is a foreign group. It is a Shiite group in a country without a Shiite majority. And Hezbollah is a client, a proxy, as they say, of Iran. And the test of the negotiations, whether the nation of Lebanon, which is now going to be participating in the negotiations, and the government of Iran can actually bring Hezbollah to the negotiating table and get a commitment, and maybe even an enforceable commitment, that they will stop firing missiles at Israeli targets. And part of this may require some dealing with Israel. There is also this news. Where's Marco? A lot of people have been playing that game recently because Marco Rubio, the head of foreign policy for this administration, the Secretary of State, he now is announcing that he will be visiting Gulf countries struck by Iran during the war to discuss ongoing negotiations. Now, this is really very complicated. Marco Rubio is going to be in Oman and Bahrain and Kuwait, places like that were hit by the Iranians. And the idea is to try to get those countries to sign into the Abraham Accords, that is the pro-U.S. Movement, to try to see if there can be at least some negotiation or acceptance of the existence of Israel, which many of these countries have not recognized at all in the past. We will see. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will visit several U.S. allied nations in the Persian Gulf this week that were pummeled by Iranian missiles and drones over the last few months. Rubio will be discussing ongoing negotiations with Tehran. And those negotiations are, get this. They are going on in Switzerland near the city of Lucerne. And while they are going on in Switzerland, the negotiations are being led by Oman and Pakistan. And Pakistan isn't even in the region. It just happens to be one of the biggest population Muslim nations in the world. Not quite as big as Indonesia, but Indonesia is trying to be drawn into this as well. Rubio will visit United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, and Bahrain between tomorrow and Thursday of this week to discuss the memorandum of understanding signed by President Trump and his Iranian counterpart last week, and efforts to secure full and free, safe transit through the Strait of Hormuz and the importance of peace and stability in the region. That, according to State Department spokesperson Tommy Pigott. Meanwhile, there is more transfer from epic failure to encouraging process and progress. CNN is reporting that Vice President J.D. Vance met with Iranian officials in Switzerland yesterday for diplomatic talks, which formally began a 60-day window of negotiations over Tehran's nuclear program. A day earlier, Iran said it had resealed the Strait of Hormuz in response to Israeli military operations, which have nothing to do with the Strait of Hormuz, by the way. They were military operations against Hezbollah in Lebanon. But American officials denied that the Iranian military ever shut down the strait. And U.S. Central Command tweeted that 55 merchant ships carrying more than 17 million barrels of oil transited the waterway over the weekend. Iranian officials had said they would not negotiate while fighting continued between Israel and Hezbollah, which, of course, then gives this terrorist organization, recognized as a terrorist organization for more than 30 years, Hezbollah, a veto power over going forward with any negotiations at all. The delayed talks originally scheduled for Friday, but Reuters reported both Hezbollah and Israel agreed to a ceasefire later yesterday. Meanwhile, Donald Trump in a World Cup crisis mode. As Epstein chants put attendance in doubt, Donald Trump may skip World Cup matches as the White House officials scramble to shield the president from viral Epstein-linked fan chants sung by England, Scotland, Australia, and New Zealand supporters at the 2026 tournament. It's interesting because England, along with France and Germany and Argentina, England is one of those teams that on the soccer pitch is considered to be a favorite. Coming up next, Iran and Trump have something they've agreed on. Whoa! What have they agreed on? Well, it's not that President Trump was threatening the Iranian negotiators with death. He was. It's they agree on blaming Israel first. That's according to an editorial in the Wall Street Journal. We'll get to that and more coming up on the Medved Show.
Join in your daily dose of debate.
I listen to you occasionally when I'm driving. Turns my stomach every time I do.
The Michael Medved Show.
By the time I hit my 50s, I'd learned a few things, like how family is precious. Work can always wait. And 99% of people over 50 already have the virus that causes shingles. Not everyone at risk will develop it, but I did. The painful, blistering rash disrupted my life for weeks. Don't learn about your shingles risk the hard way. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today. Sponsored by GSK.
And on the Michael Medved show, with the negotiations advancing and some of the video that came out in Switzerland actually showed people embracing. No, seriously, including people from the foreign ministry of the nation of Iran. And obviously, they have a lot invested in wanting these negotiations to work out and want this peace deal that President Trump has put on the table, the memorandum of understanding. They want that to work out and be fleshed out, including a stop to the Iranian nuclear problem. But with all of that going on, there is a tremendously hard-hitting editorial in the Wall Street Journal under the heading "Iran and Trump Blame Israel First." And it's not just Trump blaming Israel, it's his entire administration. And that administration features, of course, J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance, according to many reports, had not been enthusiastic about the decision to go to war. But now, for any problems with the war, he is not blaming his boss, of course not. He's blaming Israel. Last week, he was doing a press conference at the White House, and some of what he had to say makes the point that Israel is, as far as J.D. Vance is concerned, a suitable scapegoat for his blame. This is clip 7.
That Netanyahu is fuming. That's not reflective of the conversations that I've had with him, but maybe he's saying something to somebody else that he's not saying to me. What I will say, and this does bother me, is that you've seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal and in some ways very personally attacked the president of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world. And the second message I would give to some of those cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down this path, but to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the president of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars. The problem for Israel is not Donald J. Trump. And anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the president of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in.
The one thing to keep in mind here is that the cabinet members he is talking about in a part of the coalition in the Netanyahu government, those cabinet members are very unpopular in Israel at large. They represent fringe parties, and they do not represent the leadership of Bibi Netanyahu, as he kind of alluded to as he was going on. In the Wall Street Journal this morning, under the heading, "Iran and Trump Blame Israel First," there is a piece by the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal. It begins, "President Trump's new era of Middle East peace is off to a rocky start. As Iran declared Saturday, it has again closed the Strait of Hormuz. But at least the Trump administration and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps agree on the culprit, Israel. Iran's military command said it closed the strait, blaming the U.S. for a clear breach of the Memorandum of Understanding. The U.S. says ships are still moving through the strait, though hardly at the level before the war, as the MOU envisions. Tehran claims the U.S. is obliged to stop Israel from bombing Hezbollah, even as Hezbollah continues to kill Israeli soldiers and to fire rockets and drones at civilians in northern Israel. Fighting calmed down yesterday as Israel asked its military to reduce combat operations. Iran insists that MOU requires that Mr. Trump treat Israel like an American proxy, though Israel is a sovereign democracy with a duty to its citizens to stop foreign bombardment. And Israel was not included at any stage in these negotiations with Iran. Perhaps Iran got this idea from listening to Mr. Trump and his vice president. Israel is fighting Hezbollah too long, Mr. Trump said last week. J.D. Vance was even more threatening. The Israelis, just like everybody else, he said, have to respect this peace process that is fundamentally good for them and good for the entire region. Nice of him, says the Wall Street Journal, to tell the Israelis what's good for them. No, it is not good for the Israelis to simply accept missiles aimed at their troops and at civilians living in the north part of Israel. Within hours of Mr. Vance's blunt message to Israel on Thursday, Hezbollah killed 4 Israeli troops. This guaranteed a retaliation, which Tehran then took as a pretext to postpone talks and threaten the strait. Iran orchestrates these escalations to waste time, to divide the U.S. and Israel, to gain leverage and win immunity for its proxies, while Mr. Trump claims the region's new leaders are far less radicalized, and Mr. Vance says they want to turn over a new leaf. This seems like the same old Iranian regime we know and don't love. Having signed the MOU, ended his blockade of Iranian ports, and eased sanctions, Mr. Trump has given away the leverage he had with Iran. On Sunday, he threatened to bomb Iran again if it doesn't control Hezbollah, but would he jeopardize the MOU to do it? Mr. Trump now finds himself in the position of attacking the best U.S. ally in the region for defending itself. Like Barack Obama, he risks becoming an apologist for Iran. This may win him support among Mr. Vance's friends in MAGA's anti-Israel wing. That's you, Tucker Carlson. But it risks giving away the gains of his military campaign. So what has President Trump been saying to offend not only our enemies, but our allies? We'll be getting to that and more coming up on the Medved Show. And the Wall Street Journal editorial under the heading Iran and Trump blame Israel first. They conclude the editorial by saying that Mr. Trump came into office with a chance to restore American deterrence after the feckless Biden years. But he increasingly finds himself attacking allies while apologizing for adversaries. Taiwan is scolded for wanting weapons to defend itself against Mr. Trump's friend in Beijing, Xi Jinping. Ukraine is lectured for not knowing that Russia has oil and all the cards, as Mr. Trump put it. And now these dastardly Israelis, according to Mr. Trump, are the scapegoats for defending themselves against Iran's Hezbollah proxy in Lebanon. Peace through weakness never lasts long. And some of the reaction to President Trump's tendency, and J.D. Vance's tendency even more, to blame Israel and attack Israel when, if anything, they are helping us and have helped us profoundly in the successes of this war so far, which have been on the ground, not really through diplomacy. Mark Levin on Fox News slammed those people in the Trump administration, presumably including J.D. Vance, who trash, smear, and bully Israel. This is Mark Levin, clip 15.
I'm going to start the program where I'd rather not start, but I must. I want to say to people in and out of the administration, stop trashing, smearing, bullying the little state of Israel. Stop cozying up to and telling us that the enemy regime in Iran is now more rational, more moderate, and a regime that we can deal with. When just a few months ago they slaughtered 50,000 people, they're still hanging young people today. And if they had a nuclear missile today, they'd fire it into our country as sure as I'm alive. I don't know what's going on, but if people think they can bully a little country, really a people that have existed 4,000 years through the Babylonians and the Persians, through the Romans and the Third Reich, into surrendering their defense and their decision on how to secure their country, they got another thing coming. I think it's outrageous. When we used to see the Secretary of War and the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff daily here on Fox tell us of the fantastic marriage, symmetry between our militaries in defeating this enemy. I'm really appalled by this, and I hope it comes to an end sooner than later, because it's not right, it's not just, and it's not truthful.
And it doesn't benefit the United States of America. What benefits the United States of America is something else that President Trump did very constructively, the greatest achievement of his first term, which was the Abraham Accords. The idea that getting other nations in the region that are anti-Iran, that fear Iran, and they fear Iran because Iran has lobbed missiles and destroyed property and destroyed military resources in nations like the United Arab Emirates and Qatar and Kuwait. Meanwhile, Mark Polymeropoulos, who is a retired CIA officer, also spoke a little bit about his contacts in Israel and what they are saying about Trump's memorandum of understanding. This is clip 20.
So the Israelis I speak with are in a state of panic. One former Mossad official said, literally, I can't believe this is happening. But in some ways, they should have known better. And one analyst actually told me, look, Benjamin Netanyahu decided to ride the tiger. That's Donald Trump. And the tiger just turned around and just bit him on the rear end. And like many of us predicted he would, because Trump was no dedicated, savior. He was not the Messiah for Israel. He's too transactional. And let me just add one quick thing, Willie. Let's not forget, at the end of the Biden administration, if you calculate what President Biden did after October 7th, he gave the Israelis $18 billion in military aid. Yet somehow he is seen as not a supporter of Israel. That was preposterous. And right now, I think the Israelis are realizing that Trump was not who they thought he was, and that this MOU actually puts them in a very precarious national security situation, particularly in terms of ballistic missiles and what to do about Hezbollah, a terrorist entity sitting on their northern border.
And then there is more from Joe Scarborough. Joe Scarborough, former congressman and Morning Joe. He spoke on J.D. Vance's rhetoric about the whole peace process in Iran. Listen, this is clip 10.
You've got J.D. Vance talking like Iran is Luxembourg. It's humiliating for him to be running around doing that. David Rode, we've all said that Donald Trump made the mistake early on of not telling the American people why we were going to war, not being clear. He finally settled, though, on what? A nuclear program. They can never have a nuclear program. What did Donald Trump say yesterday? I've already said. Talked about the ballistic missiles. And what he's saying at this front is bad, really, as what's in the MOU. Because as it comes to ballistic missiles, the thing that our allies in that region are the most concerned about right now, Donald Trump said, well, if Saudi Arabia has ballistic missiles, well, my good friends, the Iranians should have ballistic missiles. How can you say, and he did say this, how can you say that the Saudis can have ballistic missiles when the Iranians can't? Why, that's not fair. And then on nukes, on the issue that he said was the key thing, they can't have a nuclear program. I wrote it down here. He said it's hard when their neighbors have nuclear programs and you're not letting them have a nuclear program for electricity and things like that?
Okay, and the idea is that the problem with weapons, no one thinks that it is a problem or a danger to the world for Britain or France to have nuclear weapons. They've had those weapons for a long time. And as democratic republics, they are not going to use those weapons for their own imperialist schemes. They clearly will not. Britain had nuclear weapons at the time of the Suez Campaign, if you remember that history from 1956. They didn't even use the nuclear weapons to defend their canal that they were very concerned about losing. And that's a long time ago. But the idea that a nuclear weapon is just as dangerous in the hands of, say, Saudi Arabia as it is in the hands of Iran is preposterous. It means that none of the intelligence work that we have done over the years, nothing of what we know about Iran with its violence and murderous culture that is aimed at death to America. That's what they chant and what their crowds chant when they are not running for their lives from the authorities who kill their own people. It's a very, very different factor. It's the same idea in the United States. We have a lot of legal gun owners. The legal gun owners are not the problem. The problem is the guns being in the wrong hands, just as the nuclear weapons are in the wrong hands if, God forbid, they are ever developed by the Iranians. We will get to more and the anti-Israel left. Who's joining them? That and more coming up. And on the Michael Medved Show, there is a great deal of criticism about the handling of the entire Iran crisis, the lead up to war, the decision to go to war, the failure to explain to the American people, even to this day, clearly what the goals were, the purposes of the war, and then, of course, the handling of the peace process with the 60 days now to go to make the memorandum of understanding into something that is a meaningful step on the road to a lasting peace. David Rode, who is a national security reporter for MS Now, talked about his assessment of President Trump's handling of the war. Not exactly an A grade. This is clip 19.
It's extraordinary. There's the launch of the war, the management of the war, and even the way he's trying to spin this deal, I'm sure horrified some of his aides, what he said yesterday. The bottom line is that this is Donald Trump himself. I spoke with a former administration official, and in his second term, he has no large national security council. He doesn't really listen to any of his aides. It's a tiny circle, and he makes these decisions. He feels he has more foreign policy experience now as a second-term president. This MOU shows he does not. I agree with Senator Cassidy. This is one of the largest American foreign policy blunders in decades, and this is Donald Trump's fault. His arrogance, bluntly speaking, and his complete misreading of the region and what it's like to go to war there.
Okay, there's also a piece in the Wall Street Journal. Yes, it's true that MS Now tends to lean to the left, but the Wall Street Journal is the leading conservative daily voice in the country, you could say, along with National Review, but that's not every single day. Wall Street Journal is, and Alicia Finley is one of the very devoted pro-Trump commentators who does a regular weekly column for the Wall Street Journal. And she writes, for months, the president's critics on the far right and the far left have charged that Mr. Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, dragooned Trump into war with Iran. They claimed the war would precipitate an economic catastrophe. These same voices have argued for years that the U.S. should cut off military aid to Israel for defending itself. Now, Messrs. Trump and Vance sound as if they agree. The president last week rationalized his decision to cut and run from Iran by saying the alternative would have triggered another Great Depression. Never mind that job growth over the past few months has been the strongest of his second term, and oil prices were falling as markets came into rough balance. Iran's economy was under more pressure from the U.S. blockade than the other way around. At the start of the war in early March, a Fox News poll showed Americans evenly split on the president's military actions. As the war dragged on, support waned. And then enter the vice president, who, as Senator Warren might say, was pursuing a completely different set of objectives than the president. Mr. Vance has spent the Trump presidency trying to curry favor with Tucker Carlson as part of laying the groundwork for a 2028 presidential run. That includes a trip earlier this year to Hungary to stump for Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who lost. The vice president's diplomatic outreach to Mr. Carlson is bizarre, given how the pundit has made common cause with the far left. In a New York Times interview last month, Mr. Carlson accused the president of being a slave to Israel. Terrorist groups, Hezbollah and Hamas, he added, are not a bigger problem than the behavior of Citibank. As is his habit, writes Elisa Finley, Mr. Vance brushed aside criticism of the president's Potemkin peace deal by swatting at straw men and presenting a false choice rather than addressing the merits of the critics' arguments. They want the war to go on until every bomb has been dropped or every Iranian is dead, he said. No one is arguing for that. But prematurely declaring mission accomplished in Iran is unlikely to turn out well for the U.S. or for Mr. Vance in 2028. And that is extraordinarily important to keep in mind, that you could say, well, how is there a political dimension to this entire war? Well, there's also coming up before 2028, the midterm elections. And that's what puts this report from NBC in context. Vice President J.D. Vance, they are reporting, held talks in Switzerland with Iranian officials yesterday, as Tehran protested Donald Trump's recent comments potentially threatening the day-old peace. The Iranian delegation has expressed its protest to the American side and is now reviewing appropriate response to Donald Trump's recent verbal threats, Iranian officials said. It was unclear which of Trump's statements they were referring to. However, earlier Sunday, Trump posted on Truth Social that we'll hit very hard again, just like we did last week, only harder, 3 exclamation points. In a phone interview Sunday morning with Fox News, Trump said he spoke with the Iranians overnight, delivering a stark warning that if Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. will blow the beep out of them. You close it and you won't have a country. Fox News' Trey Yingst reported the president's telling him Sunday morning, you won't even make it back to your effing country. And the president didn't say effing, he said the other word. Told during the phone call that the Iranian president Masoud Pezeshkian said Iran will maintain its right to enrich uranium, Yingst said that Trump responded that he better watch his mouth and he better shape up or we'll take over the rest of the country. Vance, joined at the negotiations by Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and son-in-law Jared Kushner, met with a senior Iranian delegation to discuss the technical details of a memorandum of understanding signed last week. Mediators from Qatar and Pakistan also joined the talks. Israel and Hezbollah have accused each other of violating a ceasefire in southern Lebanon with continued strikes, even as the Trump administration and Iran press for fighting to end. After initial talks Sunday, Vance told the media that great progress had been made toward a future where everyone can work together to promote peace and prosperity. Hence the embraces at their meetings in Switzerland. Meanwhile, the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian issued an unusual warning Sunday to unspecified voices in Iran pressing for a return to conflict. Continuing the war is not in the interest of any individual or group, the president of Iran stressed, adding that if there are internal rifts in Tehran, there will be no need for Israel and America. We will destroy the country ourselves. Trump then added that the U.S. could charge tolls for ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz, that the U.S. deserved that money, the tolls on ships, referring to the U.S. as the guardian angel of the Middle East. Meanwhile, the Israel Defense Forces said in a statement on Saturday that Hezbollah had breached the ceasefire and launched more than 50 projectiles toward IDF soldiers operating in southern Lebanon, and that Israel had attacked what it described as Hezbollah targets in response. The IDF remains committed to the ceasefire agreement, the statement said. Coming up, we will be talking about a new analysis that says the Democratic Party has never been weaker. And a conclusion, this may be a good thing. Why? We'll get to that and more in This Greatest Nation on God's Green Earth.
The Michael Medved Show.
Listen.
Nationwide.
Listen.
And around the world at michaelmedved.com.
And listen.